All right. Hey, everyone. I am going live just really quick today because I have a story time that I want to tell you. I'm going to hop on here and I'm hopping off. Okay. So I hope you guys are having a good day today. But this story time is about how I overreacted, totally overreacted. This actually happened last month, but I wanted to wait until everything was done before I told you guys the story. So I totally overreacted to someone, which was one, it's just, excuse me, he is one of my guests that is staying in a corporate rental, and I thought he did not pay his rent, right? So let me tell you what happened. I'm going to start from the beginning so you have a background, and then I'm going to move forward, okay? All right, so I have a property and I have a gentleman who contacted me, and he contacted me through Furnish Finders, but he's not a traveling medical professional, or excuse me, professional. Now, all of you who watch my channel know that that's what I specialize in. I cater to traveling medical professionals, but I do accept other guests as well. So this gentleman was actually located, he was in the St. Louis area already, but he had relocated from California to St. Louis to work in one of the major corporations in the area. And he was looking for a place to stay while he looked for a house to buy, because at this point it's taken a while to find a house to buy, right? So I was like, okay, cool. He did contact me through via message, and I replied. We went back and forth, and he asked, could he see the property? Well, normally, I don't allow people to see the property unless it's vacant, right? So if there's a tenant there, I don't allow anyone to see the property, right? So the house was actually vacant at this time. So I was like, cool, come over. So he comes over, he views the property, and he likes it. So we talk about him securing it, right? Okay, so he secured the property, he went through the process. Now, one thing that was a red flag to me is that when he did his background check, he did not enter in his address, I guess a previous address. He entered in the address of the corporate rental. So he did send me a message and let me know that he made the mistake. But at that point, there was no way to correct it because the background check had already been done. So that meant he would have had to do it over again and pay over. And so I was like, okay, maybe let me just look at it. It might not be a big deal. So I looked at the background check, credit check, eviction checks, all of those things. Nothing seemed wrong or out of the ordinary. So I went ahead and was like, okay, we can proceed with, you renting the property. All right. So another thing that happened before he actually got into the property is I asked for the deposit and first month's rent. Now, the rent was prorated because he was moving in the middle of the month, right? So it seems like he had a little bit of challenge paying the first month's rent and the deposit. Basically, I accept all of my payments through like an electronic payment sources, right? So either Zelle, Venmo, PayPal, something like that. So I don't typically collect cash, or if they want to mail a check, that's fine, but it's just easier to get it electronically. So I just told him the options of how he could pay. He wanted to pay um, basically through, I think he paid through Venmo. Yeah, he paid through Venmo, but it was kind of a weird situation where he was like, well, I don't want to have to pay fees if I pay through Venmo. So can I pay it later? So basically, he was saying, can I pay for the property, like to secure it, the deposit and first month's rent? Can I pay it later? But he wanted me to still hold the property. So of course my answer was no, right? I can't do that. So I let him know I can't hold the property without some type of payment. So he was like, well, let's push the move-in date back so I don't have to pay certain fees if I have to go through Venmo, yada, yada, yada. So one thing in my brain was like, hmm, usually when you pay through Venmo, you don't have any fees. Like I'm the person who incurs the fees because it's coming to me. So they might take out fees, but a lot of times they don't, especially since I'm not having it sent through a business. It's kind of personal, person to person. So, but I was kind of like, well, why are you having to pay your first month's rent and deposit via credit card? And this person, like, he told me his job title, where he worked. So it was a little strange for me because I'm like, that's another red flag. I don't know if I need to rent to this person or not. So I was already kind of like, on edge about this whole thing. But he ended up sending me the money on time, and he was able to secure the property. But that still was like an uneasy feeling for me because it was a little bit different. Normally, when people are looking for a place to stay, they already have their deposit and first month's rent like lined up, like they have money in the bank to pay for those things because they know they're looking for housing. So yeah, that threw me off a little bit, but okay, he sent it, whatever. Now that was the middle of the month. Now we get to the beginning of the next month. So that was the beginning of April, right? So the first comes, I don't see anything. No payment come through. I don't see anything. I had one of my business partners check the mail at our office and he didn't see anything. Okay, fine. Now I give people a 5-day grace period. But by the third day, I usually will send out a text like, hey, the rent is due. And, make sure you pay it by the 5th or you'll start incurring some late fees. So I sent that message, right? No response. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. The 5th comes around. I'm still like, hey, let me check the mail. Don't see anything. Don't see anything in any of my accounts. So I'm like, okay, so it's the 5th. All right. Well, let me give them to the 6th. And that's officially late at that point, right? So on the 6th, I send another text like, hey, all right, you are late at this point. Like, late fees are going to start incurring. What's going on? Have you sent the payment? No response. All right, well, no response. Now it's time for me to take further action. Like I immediately jumped into like, let me go ahead and get this person up out of this property so that I can get the next person in. So I immediately jump into sending him or creating a letter saying, hey, your rent is late and I am not extending your lease because I do month-to-month leases. So I basically said, your lease will not be extended beyond, a certain date. This rent has not been paid, and I gave the amount and sent it registered mailed to the location, to the corporate rental, right? And did all of these things. And I copied it and scanned it and emailed it to him, right? So I have a copy, he has a copy, mailed and emailed, and I have proof of all of this, right? So still did not hear anything. I'm still like, okay, now the letter was delivered or should have been delivered by now. He should have received my email by now. Like normally, if a person has paid their rent or something and someone reaches out and says you haven't, they'll say, oh, wait a minute. Yes, I did. Here's the proof, right? I wasn't hearing anything. It was totally crickets, right? So I'm like, okay, what is going on here? So I'm thinking that, he had to have received something. So I guess maybe, at the end of the month or when the deadline is up for the lease, he'll just go ahead and move. And I'm like, I hope it's not going to be any issues. I hope he doesn't tear the property. Like I have all of these things running through my head, like of the worst case scenario of when you have someone in your property that should not be there any longer because they're not paying, right? So let's just say it gets to around the 10th of the month. And I've already let it go. I've accepted it. I'm like, okay, he's been notified. He has to get out by a certain date. So this is all in my head, whatever. Keep it moving. I got other things to do. I go to the office and I have a pile of mail, right? So normally I have a pile of mail. It's normally junk mail. My partner goes through it, lets me know if there's something important. Well, I see an envelope right on top, blank, nothing, just addressed to me. So I open it up and I look. It was the rental check. Yes, it had been sitting in the office since the beginning, or I don't know when exactly it came, but the date on the check had March 31st on it. So it had to have at least been mailed by March 31st from the bank. So it was a bank check. Now, if any of you are aware, whenever someone sends a bank check, it is very like anonymous. Like it doesn't say anything. It doesn't look like a check. It doesn't look like anything from the envelope, right? So I look at my partner like, didn't I ask you if I had an email? He was like, well, I thought it was junk mail. No, it's not. This is the check that the man paid. And I've sent him a letter. I've sent him an email. I've left him text messages. Oh my gosh. Like now I'm the fool, right? Now again, it could have came after the 5th. I did not check the mail. I didn't go into the office myself until around the 10th. My partner said he didn't know it was something. He thought it was junk mail. Okay, I can't blame anybody, but now I feel like, dang, I've overreacted and I'm gonna have to apologize, right? So I got to eat this up, right? So I went ahead and I sent a message to the gentleman like, I received your rent check. I am so sorry. Let's just blame it on snail mail. Everything is fine. So smoothed it over. But then I realized later on, because later on in the month, the registered letter came back to the office. He didn't even receive the registered letter. Okay, cool, because he didn't need to receive it. And he still didn't even respond to my message to say, hey, I received it, blah, blah, blah. Nothing again. So I'm guessing he's just one of these people who just does not communicate, and I just have to chalk it up. But I did overreact. I went through like all of the steps to get him up out of the property, or preparing to get him up out of the property. So yeah, that was on me. So now this month, I am taking a step back because, again, the rent was due on the 1st, which was a Sunday. So I'm not even expecting to see anything. I'm going to wait until the 5th or 6th just to go check. So I won't be overreacting this month. I am going to trust that everything is fine. Now, he has communicated with me since this incident, but it was on something totally different. He just let me know I had a piece of mail at the corporate rental, which I'm like, well, you let me know I had a piece of mail, but you didn't respond to me saying that I hadn't received the rent. Like, wouldn't that raise an alarm in your head to say something if you sent it? But whatever, everybody does things differently. So I'm going to be chill this month and just like realize and recognize, like, let it go, let it flow, and yeah, everything will be okay. So I just wanted to share that quick story time with you guys. That yeah, I overreacted, and it's okay. It's okay. And I'm sure this might happen to some of you, or has happened to some of you, but I thought it would be a little bit funny just to share it, and again, to give you a realistic perspective of this business. All right, so I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will be back with you soon with another video teaching you all about corporate rentals and midterm rentals. I got some interviews coming up with some other people, so stay tuned to the channel, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.